Welcome to Speaking Cinema, a serious movie jibber jabber, a movie podcast coming to you via your ears from the internet from a signal originating in Hollywood, California. Listen to us jibber jabber every single Monday. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. Listen to us on our social media campaign: Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook. Speaking Cinema.
Got them all.
We got them all. That's all of them, right?
There's ones that ones that aren't invented yet. We're on those too.
But there's some that are invented that we're not on. We're not on Tinder. We're not on Ashley Madison. We're not on MySpace.
All my data leaked on Ashley Madison.
Well,
what? What is Ashley?
Our data did leak on it, but we're not yet. And then we're also not on Vine. Not on Vine.
Yeah, we could do a Vine, I bet.
One Vine. I am your host, Mr. Jibber Jabber, and here with me, as always, Mr. Speaking Cinema, a.k.a. Kevin.
1 year older, 1 year wiser.
And I think that people don't realize this is a titular podcast, as you are Mr. Speaking Cinema, and I am Mr. Jibber Jabber, and then we combine the two, and that's how we got the name of the podcast.
That's how we did it.
I feel like it's bizarre that we went a whole year without telling that story.
You know, it's
And your parents were, they were really into Scorsese back in 1986.
Dude, so I was conceived during a viewing of Taxi Driver.
Yeah, it was they were flipping the laser disc in. That's when he came out. So that's why your middle name is Disc 3 Side 2, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Who are we? We are Speaking Cinema. What's it about? It's a podcast about movies. Take a listen. Find out. We got 52 other episodes you can listen to. 51.
There's a wide range of films. And there's something for everybody.
Bearing the lead here, this time on the Jibber Jabber, Untitled Episode 52, Year in Review. A reflection of the last year of our podcast. If you're not familiar, Speaking Cinema Serious Movie Jibber Jabber is a movie podcast started in May of 2015. Two dudes talk about a movie to give it context, what they think about it, what they know about it, the genre it's in. Then they watch it, and then they talk about it, having had seen it. The podcast is divided into seasons. Every few weeks, a new theme is picked. Upcoming season 7, a look at the work of Steven Spielberg. Right in the middle of that right now. Season 3, if you want to go back in the way back machine, was a bunch of horror movies for Halloween. Kev, any favorite seasons for you?
Let's see. Favorite season? I really liked our Summer of '82 that we just wrapped up here.
Yeah.
That was just so many interesting films in that time, and we had such diverse opinions about all of them.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah, it wasn't like, these are all pretty good. It's like there were ones we loved, there were ones we fucking hated, there were ones that we divided completely on. So it's that was a fun season.
Yeah, if you're going to start with the podcast, it's probably the best place to start. It's definitely not at episode number 1.
Yeah, no.
That's for sure. Bit of background. A long time ago in a cubicle far, far away, Mr. Jibber Jabber, that's me, listened to podcasts all day long at his day job and thought to himself, I've been listening to podcasts for almost 10 years, started in college when I was shelving books. And I don't know if you ever dealt with the Library of Congress system, Kev. Have you?
I have not.
You didn't go to your college library?
I mean, to take naps.
I see. No, it's an appropriate place. And the college I was at, you could eat and take naps. They did legalize both those things there.
Very nice.
But weird sex cam stuff, that's still not allowed. So it's like it's a letter, and maybe it's 2 letters like PG, and then the things and trying to put those, because when you first get a job there, they like put books away.
Yep.
Putting those books away and repeating those numbers all in your head all over again, you just start to lose your mind, and you start to just think of everyone who's ever wronged you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like PNG 781.5, PNG 781.6, PNG 7.1.7. You're just like, I just hate everyone. So I started listening to Kevin Smith's podcast and This Week in Tech, and
that got you hooked. Huh?
That's what got me hooked. This Week in Tech. That was my first podcast. So learned it from Dig.com, bringing up all kinds of old shit.
Dig.com. I haven't heard that in a very long time.
Indeed.
And now there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts covering every range of topic you can hope for.
Right.
So it's a boom that has just absolutely soared exponentially.
Mm-hmm. So back to the story. I listened to podcasts for 10 years. I was also getting more and more into film. Had fallen out a little bit. Never fully out, but it was getting more obsessed about it.
Any moviegoer knows you go through phases.
Yeah. And this was definitely on the upswing. And also, at the tender age of 28, I realized I'll never be a professional wrestler, and I just don't have the time to learn how to play the guitar. So, interest plus obsession plus a need for a creative outlet. It's time to make a podcast.
And hey, you listening at home, what's it take to make a podcast? Microphone, some recording software.
We'll get to that specifically.
All right, we'll get there.
But you're right.
You don't need much.
Right.
So it's
also some ideas.
It's a,
and also a great voice,
creativity,
a great voice for podcasts, which we both have,
and a great face for radio.
I give you that underhand, and then you just knocked it out of the park. So, to my recollection, I said, Kev, hey man, you want to start a podcast? And you said, to my memory, and correct me if I'm wrong here, yes.
Yeah.
And then you went on to say, if you ever wrote a book on film, it would have been called Speaking Cinema, which I was very keen on that. And I had been messing around with serious movie Jibber Jabber. And, 1 + 1 = 2 in this case.
And we just mashed it together.
Mashed it together. And, and also, serious Jibber Jabber came from a Card Against Humanity card. Cards Against Humanity card, which slayed me. It just said, all it said on it was serious Jibber Jabber, and I couldn't stop laughing for some reason.
Go.
So
man, that's
why that was in my head.
That's also the name of one of Conan's segments is Serious Jibber Jabber. So when he talks to Neil deGrasse Tyson and has big subjects to talk about, or he gathers his old Simpsons writing room and they talk about working on the Simpsons back in the day. So don't sue us, Conan.
He has no basis for that lawsuit.
Yeah. So there you go then.
It's like the second half of our title. You know what I mean? Like, come on. I remember sitting down and hammering out the format, which I jotted down a lot of notes because we started the first episode came out in May, but I think we started this a couple of months before that. So I remember writing down a bunch of notes on ideas and format, whatever. And then I sat down one day and it just kind of found itself. You know what I mean? Pretty succinctly. And if you go back, there are some former segments that really have not lasted, including the rapid fire, what this movie, and a recap of the film that the listener either just watched or has seen or is not going to watch.
Yep. It's
the reason why that segment got done.
We've just really honed our format because as you do it over and over and over again, you realize some of these, they look like a great idea on paper, but then who are they actually serving?
And the answer to that question is none of you.
Exactly.
Oh, also, I thought when we were right up until we were done with the first episode, I thought this will on average be 30 minutes long. And that first episode went an hour and a half.
Yep.
And I think the longest episode we had was, I believe, a little bit north of 2 hours.
We got some epics in there. No question about it.
And I think since then we've aimed for an hour.
I believe our Star Wars Episode 7 episode is as long as Episode 7.
Well, that movie, I mean, there's a
lot to talk about.
Yeah. And then the first episode, I knew I wanted to do Starry Eyes because Starry Eyes is breaking into Hollywood. We came down here to break into Hollywood. It's just kind of all that. I just was like executive decision. We got to go with Starry Eyes first. And then it took a few weeks to figure out how to record everything. I thought it'd be easier just to Google how do you record a podcast, and I had to really kind of dig a little bit deeper. I don't know. I feel like the information generally spoken of get a mic and get some software. It's well, what mic and what software? And I remember
it's what kind of room are you in affects the type of microphone you need. All that stuff.
Indeed. Piggyback on what you had started earlier, we have a Blue microphone, brand Blue, little desk microphone that we share. No individual mics for this show. It's not about egos, man. It's about the music.
But hey, if somebody gets a sponsorship, buying a second microphone.
Yeah.
Mark Maron status.
Exactly. That's what we aim for in this podcast. See Mark Maron status. And then we have just a fucking headphone splitter and 2 sets of headphones, and we record straight into GarageBand, which I am looking at right now. 9 minutes to 45 seconds. And also, this is GarageBand 17 versions ago, and I refuse to update it because I'm paranoid that it'll not work anymore if I update it.
If the old thing works for what you need to do, it works.
And recently, I had to buy a 3 terabyte hard drive to put all of our old shit on because my computer was almost full.
Yep.
So
3 terabytes, huh?
I don't want to think about it ever again until I buy a new drive.
3 terabytes will last you a long time, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. So, that's it. Other than I had to figure out what to host it on, and I think based off of Colt Cabana, Art of Wrestling podcast, a favorite of mine. I was like, I'll probably just put it on SoundCloud, and then that's what I did. Had to get that SoundCloud Pro account because as I found out real quick, you can only have 3 hours of audio up on SoundCloud for free. Which, if you're a band, I mean, that might be like
That's
five.
That's 3 albums.
That's 3 major. If you're a punk band, that's like 17 albums.
Exactly.
But if you're a podcast, especially one like us that went long, that was 1 episode.
Wow.
And then the second episode, it's like, no, you don't have enough space. So I was like, fuck, I gotta
boy.
Pro account. Which is probably gonna re-up pretty soon. Gotta pay my credit card.
You gotta do it.
As of this recording, you find this podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, a bunch of other places. You knew that. But that's the format, so I gotta go with where you can find it. Pre-movie Q&A segment. Kev, when did you first hear about this podcast? Do you listen to our podcast?
You know, I listen to a good majority of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But I will admit, I don't listen to all of them.
That's fair.
Because I do live these episodes, and I know what I talked about, and it's like, what am I going to get out of it just kind of hearing it again, you know? I promote it and have my little stable listeners that listen to it and enjoy it, but I myself don't always need to hear everything. Plus, I can't stand the way my voice sounds.
Really?
When I listen to it.
Really?
I mean, I feel like most people don't like that, but I especially don't like it. It makes me sound like I'm an invalid or something.
An invalid?
An invalid.
An invalid. Interesting. So, when we first started, I would listen to each episode no fewer than 2 times. I don't know. I think I was just excited to start. You know what I mean? This is after we recorded it and after I edited it. Also, I should say I edit these because it's my computer. So I was listening to every episode.
Also, spoiler alert: we edit these episodes.
Yeah, we do edit these episodes, contrary to all of the feedback we got on the earlier ones. So I used to listen to every episode 4 times. Right? I was there for the recording. Yep. Oh, and also, it's kind of like 4+ because we write these episodes, so it's like writing down our ideas, coming up with questions, formatting the thing, doing the research.
Yep.
So that's like a point. That's like a asterisk. Then you record it, then you edit it, and then I listen to it twice. Nowadays, I'll listen to the majority of them. I kind of quickly, I'll just give it like a whirl, like sometime midweek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm with you where I can't listen to it, especially if it's a movie that really frustrated me.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, I don't want to relive this shit. Although I did listen to the E.T. episode, and I was like,
yep.
Still hate this shit. Also, this is the most egotistical thing I've ever said, I'll ever have said up till this point. But I'm going to say it, Kev. Ready?
Ready.
When I listen to our podcast, I don't hear myself. Because you were talking about when you hear yourself. Yeah. I don't hear myself. I just hear a guy that everything he says, I'm like, I agree with that. Which is pretty bizarre. But also, there'll be times where we disagree, and I think, we get, frustrated in that way that friends get when they talk about trivial things like movies. But with listening to them back, I never get frustrated with your opinion on stuff. I'm always like, oh, okay.
Well, because my opinion's always valid.
Well, so. Yeah, but in the moment, I hate it. But in retrospect, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. You gotta butt heads. If we agreed all the time, this podcast would
AKA
suck.
episodes 1 through 25.
And we had some rough ones in there. We butted some heads. I bet they're in there somewhere.
What advice do you want to give to yourself if you could talk to yourself pre-episode 1?
Should have done it sooner. It's really.
That's good. That's a good one.
I would say do it sooner, but also refine the format maybe a little further, even in that. But there's also that point of, I remember that first day when we were doing it, and it's we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what's gonna happen, but the mic's rolling, so we gotta start talking.
One day
you just at some point in any creative endeavor, you just gotta jump off the cliff.
On one day, when we're done with this podcast, I will release the unedited footage of the beginning of that first episode where you guys just were completely. I was like, "Who lost?" I was like, "Who did you guys read the format?" And there was silence. I was like, "Oh shit!" And yeah, it was just like,
We were deer in the headlights.
Yeah,
no question about it.
It's pretty good. Especially, it still happens now, and I have to take some of these out sometimes, but like I remember in the beginning,
Lots of ums.
so many fucking ums.
Yep.
Ugh. I know I do it. I just can't help it, and I hate it. It took forever to remove in the edit. There was one episode that took me like literally 2 hours to edit because it's just all the. It was one I wasn't prepared for. Well, it was like the first time I wasn't really prepared, and it just took goddamn forever. And also the word shit, I really lean on that word too much. It is a stupid word. Like, it's of all the curse words, it's kind of one of the dumber ones. You know what I mean? It works. It works when you use it sparingly. I think better.
Yeah, you gotta sprinkle shit every
Right,
now and then.
but when you just kind of dropping it, you just sound dumb. I don't know why.
It's true. As with any swear words, they're the pepper on a dish.
Mm-hmm. And I like it in. And listen, I like my food like I like my words spicy.
There you go.
But I just think that sometimes it's a bad flavor.
It can be overly spicy, and that just doesn't work.
And then what you said is totally true. Minimalism, keep it succinct. I just the recapping of the movies. I went back and re-listened to our episode on It Follows, and I was just like, "What the fuck are we doing?"
Yep.
And it's
we thought that was so necessary, but it's like we've seen it. We're presuming anybody listening to it has seen this thing. We don't need to like top to bottom recap the plot anymore. We just don't.
And
the only one I felt we really needed to do was Star Wars, because that plot was so under wraps.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's like, we just have to unbox this thing and
yeah.
tell about it. So some people just want the spoilers,
Indeed.
So we'll give it to you if that's what you want.
And I remember when we first made it, there are some people, this is another thing I guess I would tell myself, where it's like, when we first made it, it's like you tell people, like you tell your friends, like, we have a podcast. And a lot of people were like, cool, but I don't care. And it was like, I guess I was at first shocked at that. And then I was like, no, I know this. I know that just because you create something doesn't mean that anyone has to care.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you're not a podcast person, it doesn't really matter. And, our podcasts are very long, and I just couldn't see it any other way than being as long as they were. And I think there was a time where I was defending that, and then there was a time where I was over that, and then I felt dumb for having not been able to just make that switch. But it's one of those things where it's like, everyone always says, you gotta fail up, right? You gotta make mistakes and then learn from your mistakes. So like episodes 1 through whatever are us trying to figure out the format and not really succeeding, and then eventually we kind of figure it out and it becomes a better show.
Exactly.
But, it's just, you have to suffer through that. And it feels lame.
The old proverb is that the master has failed more times than the novice has tried. Mm-hmm. And again, anybody who wants to pursue any creative endeavor, making a podcast, making a short film, making a movie, playing guitar, whatever, you have to just suck for a while. It's just part of the process. Unless you're some prodigy and you're just naturally good at it because your brain's wired a different way. You have to go through that process. And you can sit around and talk about it all the time about like, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be great. But at some point you just got to turn your camera on or turn the mic on and just do it.
Put some pen to paper. Yeah, you're totally right, because our no surprise here, our day jobs are not hosting radio shows. We were flying blind, right? Like, I did radio in college where no one was listening for like one semester because I had to.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to play music for people who don't want to listen to it.
There's a radio station in Spokane. You could sign up to be a DJ for the night, and they like pre-recorded your segment. You could pick your songs, and I signed up for that, and I had a great song list, and I never heard back from them. But I really wanted to do it. I want to be a curator.
Is it college radio or just like public radio?
No, this was a public radio station.
Wow.
It was like, it's called The River. They played, alternative songs.
Politics.
Guess my Tom Waits selection turned them off, but
Mm-hmm.
I tried.
They are not members of the KISS Army.
No, they aren't. What do you mean I can't play All of Love Gun? Shut up.
So, looking back on it, big picture, I think the podcast now is the podcast I wanted it to be when we started.
I agree, too. It's much more efficient, and we're much more willing to explore different ideas. Like, we'll pick a movie we either haven't seen at all, flying blind into it, or movies we have very interesting feelings about towards it. Whether it's a movie you didn't like as a child, but now maybe you want to watch it and see if it gets a little better. You know, stuff like that. We're willing to explore a lot more and just not just talk about something. So
yeah, for sure. I think that our choices is sometimes I say this. It's an exploration of movies. I do think we kind of, and we'll get to things that we could potentially change or whatever. I do think we kind of go very much in we go in our wheelhouse, in our general wheelhouse. We're going on to weird places, right? Nostalgia, thematic things, whatever. Our choices do skew very male.
For sure.
Very male. And I remember Emily was like, "Are you guys ever gonna do any like girly movies?" And I'm like,
We did White Christmas. That's pretty.
One. Yeah. So,
I mean, what if that could be a season of girly movies? How two dudes watching lady movies?
Put a toothpick in there. We'll come back to it. This episode marks the end of year 1, start of year 2. We've changed a lot. But what were your expectations of this podcast coming into it?
So I thought it would just be more something just fun to do. And kind of just release one every now and then when we did it. But that was
wrong.
Exactly. But then I realized like we can make a ton of content kind of all at once and then sparse out the release of it and really explore a lot of different diverse things. And so as we were doing it, I was like, okay, we really can make this a weekly thing and really do something different each week.
Right.
So that's... Yeah, originally I was like, oh, this will be a fun thing we do every now and then, but now this is a thing.
Right. And I wanted to do it every week, and I think that was totally justified to me when I realized, like, we had more than a year's worth of ideas almost immediately.
Yep.
Where it's like, let's do an animated season, let's do a car season, let's do a random pick season, let's do movies that come out, and we haven't got to any of that shit yet. You know what I mean? There's like there's a list of movies that are gonna come out. We don't know where they're gonna go in the schedule. There's lists of let's do found footage movie fest. It's like, are we ever even gonna get around to that?
Let's not do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we got more than 52 ideas.
Yep.
So it's like, I'm like, dude, this thing has to be weekly because we'll never make any progress.
Yeah, we'd be spinning our wheels every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, or we wouldn't get to delve into them the way we want to. We'd only get to do 2 1982 movies as opposed to like 5 or however many we did.
I mean, with Spielberg, I feel like we're just cutting off that first tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. He has so many movies. We're just focusing on the ones that interest us. But like, there's just so much there. It's like you could do a whole podcast on fucking, or you could do months of a podcast on Spielberg. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
He's a busy man, Steven Spielberg.
So right before we started this, I was like hardcore just going through like Stitcher and like the iTunes podcast page, and I was listening to stuff, and I'm like, we could do better than a lot of this, And I think we're at the point now where we do better than a lot of this, and I'll say that with no shame. You have to be a fan of your own work, or else if you don't believe in you, who else will? But I did think our podcast would be bigger because I thought, we tapped into something that like could, be something that people listen to. So I initially was kind of disappointed. Like, this isn't like bigger than it is. Since then, I kind of don't care. I like what I get out of this personally more than some delusion of grandeur, And
I feel a lot of podcasts are based around a really easy hook. Like, we're going to talk about shitty movies. We're going to have one guy that loves movies and one guy that hates movies. Mm-hmm. They have really easy ins into it, and then they kind of get the buzz for a bit, but then I feel they die out really quick.
Right.
And I want this one to just I want this to be the steak,
Right.
Where the people that really want to come and discuss, like, film on a deeper, more personal level, I want this to be the bastion for them,
Right.
Instead of just, I like how did this get made, but sometimes it delves into, it gets very silly, you know, and you're in that niche of like, you can only talk about shitty movies, you know? So it's, not that there's no shortage of shitty movies.
But life's too short.
Life's too short.
Right.
Exactly.
To go willingly into that dark night.
Yep. And then, but yeah, I want this to be, if in a perfect world, I'd want us to be Siskel and Ebert,
Sure,
like,
of course.
That level of, we want to have that kind of influence of our opinion means something, and we can introduce people that might not necessarily have heard of certain films to things they haven't seen. Because that was the big thing Siskel and Ebert did, was they
champion movies.
Well, and like small independent films and foreign films and stuff like that was in Middle America's rooms every weekend, So it kind of really jump-started an independent cinema movement. It wasn't so insular.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want for us.
Another thing I consciously didn't want to do is be overly negative.
Yes.
I didn't want to. I don't need to call out. I don't need to be negative and call out podcasts. But there's a lot of podcasts that people have recommended. They're on a list of things to watch, and I listen to them, and it's like, this is just some guy giving like a YouTube comment of negativity in podcast form. Like, there's that movie with Daniel Radcliffe where he's the corpse, the Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is Daniel Radcliffe trying to get out of the shadow of Harry Potter. It's just like, come on, dude. No, this is
Daniel Radcliffe wanting to do something different and maybe make a paycheck and maybe have some fun.
And that was important to me is to if we don't like a movie, I'm not going to be nice about it if I don't like it, right? Like I didn't like E.T. But I feel like there's a level of negativity where you forget that people are people. There's a level of negativity where you forget, like, someone had to make this. Some people worked hard on this. Some people gave it its honest try. Some people tried to fix it when it was shitty. And that's why I really want to do one of our earlier episodes, Battleship, right? Because it's like, everyone wrote that movie off from the trailer, but you watch it and you're like, there are people who are honestly trying to do this here. They are just hopelessly lost.
Exactly.
And that is what it is.
And I think we have a different perspective on it because we've both worked on movie sets, worked on, we see how the sausage is made.
Right.
And we have friends that work for studios and work for companies. And
right.
We know how much work it takes to get into it. And we know some of the politics behind it. And it's, your average basement dweller doesn't know any of that stuff,
Yeah.
And then you get this very cynical, very inhuman view of just the world in general, not even just movies.
Right.
So,
where people are trying to steal your money, and it's like, no, people make movies for an audience, right? They make movies because they think that's what you want. They might think you're dumb for wanting it, but they think that, like, Transformers is the best example, and in the best way, because they think this is what America wants, and statistically, it is what they want.
Because they make money hand over fist.
And not like a little bit of money, not Ninja Turtles money. They make Transformers money, a money of its own volition.
Yep.
So that's something.
We want to.
I really didn't want to be negative like that.
Take the film internet world away from the basement dwellers. That's another thing I want to do. It's just we have. I'm going to toot our own horn here. We have a much more eclectic perspective on the whole process and how we feel about it and how people go and consume it. I just feel we have a much, I don't want to say a better understanding, but just your average person just doesn't know how it works, and they get very cynical about it, and they go, why do people make Transformers movies? Because people buy tickets to Transformers movies.
Right. It's simple.
They do that.
It's not complicated. It's simple.
And you know what? Some of the better executives, they'll make that movie so they can make, Everybody Wants Some, like a Richard Linklater type film. Like, they'll make that money so that they have the capital to pull off something more ambitious.
And then an Underworld reboot. What are your expectations for the future?
Keep exploring new things. Keep trying different films. One thing I want us to do, I don't know how we'd ever pull it off. I'd like to get an interview with somebody famous or semi-famous.
All right.
So
something we can explore. I'm not against that.
Cool.
Very special episode.
Yeah.
Why not?
If we could get, I'd say anybody, just talk to them.
Let's look into press credentials, Kev.
Let's do it. We've got enough connections.
But I'm with you, though. I just want to keep rocking and rolling. Like, the podcast for me is an excuse to explore film. It's an excuse to watch more movies than I would normally do. It puts a context into, making time and effort for this. So, and then we have a conversation with someone who wants to go with the ride. So that's what I want out of this. And if anything else would be, fine and welcome, but that's the minimum that I need. You know what I mean? Yep. So we haven't done this in a long time. We're going to dust it off. We're going to do a little bit of rapid fire.
All right.
So here we go. We're going to kick it off. Favorite episode?
I think Black Christmas is one of my favorite ones. I think that's our only episode where you really love something and I really hate something.
And I think my favorite episode, conversely, is E.T., where
I
you really love
loved
something
it.
and I really hate it. I also say that Last Action Hero is a great one.
That's
and
a
I think
fun one.
we really...
I think that's where we really hit our stride.
Well, I think yeah, that was like the first episode where we're like it was the first movie I think we watched where it's like, what is this? And we just like got into it. You know, that was really fun. Favorite upcoming episode that you're looking most forward to? Something on the horizon?
We're ballyhooing a car chase season and
Yes.
really looking at not just famous car chases, but the movies around them. Is the movie around it good, or is it just known for the car chase? I think that's going to be interesting.
On the shelf behind you have Le Mans with Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, huh?
We're going to explore that as
All
a
right.
possibility. I'm really looking forward to Jaws.
Jaws will be fun.
I'm really looking forward to Life Force.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of this movie, so looking forward to that.
And I'm looking forward to 2016 of the Halloween stuff.
Yep, that'll be good. Doing some classics.
Yeah, we're going to try to do some classics. And
And then we have an interesting movie season coming up here, too, of currently releasing films. Got Rogue One, got lots of other stuff coming out this year, so there's some interesting currently released films that I'm looking forward to talking about.
for sure. Nerdist or nudist?
Nudist.
Yeah, I'm going nudist. Suicide Squad? Does Harley Quinn make you feel funny?
She's so dirty in this one.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
Physically dirty.
Yeah, just a little bit of grime behind the ears.
Looks like
Love it.
2003 Christina Aguilera.
Batman vs Superman. Who won?
Nobody. We all lost.
Batman, but yeah.
Batman won TKO. He got a TKO.
And also from the corrections and omissions department, we were gonna do Civil War for the podcast. It just didn't work up schedule wise. But after having seen that, Batman vs Superman lost all of its luster.
You see how mightily BVS struggles just to even tell a story.
Right.
And then Civil War's got like 8 plot lines going on, and it's effortless, and it's so entertaining. Batman vs Superman, get out of here.
Yeah, I
Can't even cross 1 billion worldwide.
well, who cares about that? It just didn't work. It didn't work the way Civil War worked.
So many things just...
And if Civil War came out first, I think that people would really they'd have real problems. I think they dodged a bullet on that.
Yep.
The canon or the slash film cast?
Slash film cast.
The canon or the slash film cast?
Slash film cast.
Oh, you answered that. I thought you were correcting me.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
one more time.
The canon or the slash film cast?
Slash film cast.
It's tough. They both...
The canon, I feel, is everything I don't like about movie podcasts.
It can go... I think that on their worst day, that's where they go. On their best day, they're really celebrating some interesting stuff. But I'm gonna say the canon because I think sometimes if you just do currently releasing movies, I think it doesn't always work.
You're not guaranteed a good episode every time because one of the movies is just not worth talking about.
And no one wants to see it.
And no one goes to see it.
Yeah. Free the nipple or just settle for the underboob?
Free the nipple. We need more nipples in our lives.
Yeah, free the nipple. But so I was pretty tickle pig with settle for the underboob. Ice-T or Henry Rollins?
Henry Rollins, come on. I've seen him do spoken words twice, and I've been to like 2 Q&As with him.
Oh, interesting.
He's such an intelligent dude, and so entertaining to listen to.
Comic-Con or Kamikaze?
Kamikaze.
Which, if for people who don't know, is the Comic-Con kind of thing that is exclusive to LA.
I just feel Comic-Con it's so big now that it's political.
We'll never get in. We'll never get in.
Can't do it.
Scare LA or the LA Car Show?
Ooh, I think it's Scare LA. That one had much more. I was a little disappointed with the LA Car Show.
Oh, interesting.
Because I guess I wanted to see some more iron I could never afford, but it was mostly consumer.
Yeah, that's behind the ropes. So
Although James Hetfield's Black Pearl car was there, and that car is cool as hell.
It is. I'm gonna go LA Car Show because LA Car Show smells like cars.
Oh yeah.
And the Scare LA smells like weird fog juice and latex.
That's true. But yeah, the way a car show smells, if you could bottle that and sell it, you'd be a millionaire. Just like fresh fabric and tires.
Jushin Thunder Liger or Lightning Mike Quackenbush?
What?
Answer the question.
Mike Quackenbush. I'm going to roll with that one.
I'm going to go with the classic Japanese pro wrestler, Jushin Thunder Liger. Jushin Thunder Liger! That's his song kind of goes like that.
I believe you.
Kind of. Sneakers or tennis shoes?
Sneakers.
Oh, you almost got kicked off this podcast. Sneakers. When was this, Kev? When was this fucking time when anything athletic, anything approaching athleticism had to do with tennis? When was that time? When was that time?
Probably in like the 60s and 70s when that was.
I don't believe
sport in the
it.
world.
I don't believe it. When people say tennis shoes, it's like, why? Tennis is synonymous with fucking doing anything.
With John McEnroe throwing his racket, go, look at the line. 1980s tennis.
The guy who started Thrasher magazine said it best. Any public tennis court should have been a skate park. And he was right.
He was right.
He was right. All right, last one. LA dog or Chicago dog?
Ooh, LA dog.
I'm gonna go Chicago dog. My cholesterol ain't looking so good these days. I gotta help myself out in every little way.
Yeah, I'm going that bacon wrapped hot dog. Just amazing.
Lightning round. We're gonna play What This Podcast. Thoughts on the podcast ideas. If you need me to elaborate. But if not, LA Traincast. And the question is, would you do this podcast?
Is it about trains in LA?
Yes.
Sure, I'll do that.
David,
especially if I get to ride trains.
Yeah, you get to ride trains. David Finchcast.
Oh, totally.
Market on Marketing podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Work at an ad agency. I'm totally down for that.
Real Camera Talk.
That about like tech specs of cameras and stuff like that. I feel I'm not techie enough to
fair enough.
do that one.
That's fair, Kev.
We'll see.
Talking Shyamalan.
If I really hate, I'd have to balance with all the love I'd put in the Fincher one. I'd have to balance it out with all the hate for Shyamalan.
Talking LA Talk.
Absolutely, I'll talk up this town.
Countdown to Halloween, where we count down to Halloween. So it'd be like a 5-minute podcast.
So like 12 more weeks to Halloween.
Yeah, 12 more weeks to Halloween. What are your plans? Same as last week. Gonna have a party. Gonna dress up like Zorro. All right. See you next week.
It's like Halloween Town in Nightmare Before Christmas. Halloween comes, they throw a big bash, and then that clock just turns over.
Indeed. Silk Talking, the Silk Stockings recap podcast.
I don't like silk stockings.
That's fair.
Feel weird.
Austin Report, movies and music in Austin, Texas. Also a barbecue podcast.
Shit, yeah. Austin's a cool town.
Are You Ribbing Me? A barbecue podcast.
Hell yeah. Especially if I get to eat barbecue.
Real Talk Fake Fighting, which is a professional wrestling podcast.
Sure. Why not?
Serious Political Jibber Jabber.
I feel that would ebb and flow.
So we came up, that was something that we joked about a year ago, and in that year, the world of politics has gotten so dark and scary that is no longer funny.
Yep.
Inside Pizza podcast.
Hell yes.
Podcast.
Did you eat any breakfast? These are all very food centric.
Yeah, well, I'm a hungry guy. Podscast on Podcast, which is a podcast on podcast.
Oh boy, that's
too much.
A little too meta there.
A Song of Podcast, which is a Game of Thrones.
I feel there's enough talk on Game of Thrones every single week, and I love Game of Thrones. I watch it every week, and I feel there's just people are way too obsessed with it that I couldn't roll with it.
Talking SVU, which is a Law and Order SVU podcast.
Just don't. Please no.
Frozen Treats, which is a Dib exclusive podcast.
Dib exclusive, huh? Only Dibs? We can't go into frozen acai berries or anything like that?
You have to, but it's you know.
But through a Dib-centric lens?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, why not?
Too Young for This Shit, which is a podcast about getting older. AKA why my knee hurts when it gets fucking cold.
A little midlife crisis podcast.
Yeah, my quarter life crisis is just dovetailing nice and tight into my midlife crisis.
We'll have Corvettes before you know it.
Speaking Gentrifer podcast, which is a gentrification podcast. Again, too serious.
So many think pieces already on all that shit.
Another name for the LA one, an LA Living podcast.
Sure.
Which I think would dovetail nicely into the gentrification podcast. Yep. Furniture Report, where we just explore for the world of furniture.
Hey, I'm the king of sitting down.
The king of sitting down. Hooch in the Spirit, which is a booze cast.
Hell yes.
I'm out on that one.
Get me dry. I know you're not a hooch man.
Nope. Better When You're Naked, a nudist podcast.
Sure, why not?
Why not, right? Toot Toot Chi Cast, which is a burger burger podcast, Double Cheeseburger.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are you talking about? Sure. I'll eat burgers.
In my childhood, I may or may not have been with someone who ordered a 2-2 at McDonald's, and we were not viewed as contributing citizens to society at that point. How did this get written? Which is how did this get made about books?
Yeah, sure. There's plenty of terrible books out there.
Tweet reviews, where we review tweets.
God, no, please. That's basically ESPN all day these days. It's just tweet reviews.
Social Me Report, which is a social media podcast.
That's not.
Fucking Tuxedo Mask, which is a Sailor Moon podcast.
I remember we went on our Tuxedo Mask screed.
And I'm gonna say I'm down for Plastic Gods, which is a toy podcast.
Sure. Play with some toys.
Any other podcast ideas you got? I remember why we don't do this anymore. There's a lot of work for I don't know how much payoff.
I said I'm down for all the food podcasts. I'll eat anything.
Fair enough.
Except lettuce. Don't give me no lettuce.
He's not a fan. Hot topics, state of the industry. I want to talk about some stuff going on with movies. Movie theaters. Kev, this is going to be a rant. One, I'm tired of seeing movies with dead audiences. Every time me and you go see a movie for this podcast, we see a movie Thursday night so that we can record on Saturday so it can be up on Sunday, the same weekend it came out.
Big city living, you get those movies early.
Yeah. We did this with Captain America. We did this with 10 Cloverfield Lane. And I just feel like...
Did it with Batman vs. Superman?
Indeed. And I just feel like I can't remember a time when I went to a movie theater and people were stoked to fucking be there, who were cheering when the credits came up. You know what I mean?
Dude,
like
that was my Force Awakens screening, man. That place was hanging on every word. We were just charged.
See, that's an exception because we went to the 8 a.m. showing, so I mean it was the early bird special. But I just feel like
I was at that Thursday night showing, and it was people were just turned. They were ready to be there.
I just don't get how you go to a movie the day before it opens and you're not super stoked. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Captain America, it's like people sat on their hands up until the Bucky chase with the motorcycles, which is like an hour in. I just don't get it.
That movie's pretty front-loaded, with a lot of exposition, but agreed. I think that crowd kind of finally got into it.
But there were so many moments to go nuts in. Giant Man?
Yeah.
Let's fucking lose our minds.
I thought people went good for that.
And they
were
were
mistaken.
Like
I went crazy for it.
The last time, because I saw Jaws in the theater, and that people went nuts for the scene in that, but they're familiar with it. The last time I remember this was Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah.
Every time something epic happened, the audience would collectively, like, so when the guy's like use the sword and he brings up the sword, people were just like,
And I'm always the one guy who goes, yeah, and then like gets that crowd going.
Well, we need more of that shit. So no cheering and no clapping. I'm fucking sick of it, Kev. We need I don't know what to do.
It's we got to just start inciting those claps and cheers more, I guess. It's got to be our burden now.
I alluded to this earlier. Food situation. I want to talk about this. Lately, went to the doctor. Got some bad test results, Kev. You know this. Cholesterol.
I heard.
High. Not dangerously high, but on, higher than you want it to be. Sugar levels. Not at a safe level. Pre-diabetic. Not good. Go to the movie theater. What can I eat there? A bottle of water. That's it.
Yep.
What?
It's true.
Sell me some peanuts. I like almonds better, but I'll settle for peanuts. Actually, probably it's better for almonds because people are allergic to peanuts. But, it's just like, I don't know, man.
You have to go to very specialty theaters to get anything beyond like candy and popcorn. It's like, it doesn't seem like it'd be that big an expense for theaters to introduce a little more things. Granola bars? I mean, like, come on. That's not, you can stock those by the pound.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what I mean? And
the little theater in Claremont, the Lamley Theater, they have like those kind bars. So yeah, they got like little healthier options. Like get some apples in there.
Yeah,
some fruit.
I'm not asking for anything complicated. You know what I mean? I'm not asking for anything complicated. I don't want a smoothie. You know what I mean? A movie theater smoothie. That's not a good idea. I'm just saying simple stuff. Also, can I get some popcorn that's not like drenched in fucking gross bullshit? Yeah. Also, to anyone, whatever, I used to work in a movie theater. The amount of oil they put on that many kernels is as big as the largest. Okay. So I was working at the movie theater.
Story time.
So you scoop the popcorn into the little flat disc thing. I hit the button for the oil. Nothing happens. I'm like, oh shit, because it'll burn if you let it stay in there too long because the heating element's on. So I was like, what do I do? And the girl's like, don't worry about it. She goes to the machine next to it, puts the pan down, grabs the biggest cola, which is 44 ounces, hits the oil button. The oil starts squirting out. She catches it in the cup. It fills up to the brim with oil. And then we dump all that oil in. And then I looked, I kind of like propped myself up and looked at it. So it's like you got, one popcorn kernel of height of kernels and 3 inches of oil that it's in.
Fuck.
And it's just like, so... And it's like, I make popcorn at home. You don't need that much oil. I just, fucking my heart can't take this, Kev. Literally.
Literally can't.
Also, the price, and this is like cliche, but it's true though. The price situation that we're messing around here is just too much.
It is getting, it's getting high, unfortunately,
In LA, you're looking at $20 for ticket and parking combined is $20. And it's like, there's 18 weeks of summer movies coming out, so $20 a week, that's $360 on just movies. If you see one a week and there's 2 good ones coming out every week,
it's in my budget. I'm not gonna lie.
do you budget formally budget?
Not like crazy, not like to the penny. I know exactly what I'm gonna spend, but it's like you gotta figure out what you're doing too. So
I gotta do a better job about that. That being said, movies used to be kind of a more, like for the masses kind of entertainment. And now I feel like we're in this Fortune 500 world where it's about what is the absolute most amount of money you'll pay for something.
Yep.
Right? What is that number? Is it 20? Then it's 20. It's like, I don't know. I get that people need to make money, and I'm not naive enough to know like profit margins exist. You're not just paying for literal costs, right? It's not you're not covering costs, trying to make money, and I get that, and I respect that, and that's how business works, and we live in a capitalist society, and I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, what's the appeal of going to the movie theater when I can't eat anything there? It costs me an arm and an ass. The audience is fucking dead and bummed out. It's like, why don't I just stay home and watch it on Netflix then? You know what I mean?
Yep. You gotta make that experience better for a lot more people than just the me's of the world who I try and find those screens where I'm like, this is gonna be the best screen for it,
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough, and for a family of 4, that's an expensive day out, 4 movie tickets, and then you gotta get the snacks, and then you gotta park, and you gotta drive, you gotta get the gas. It's that's not a cheap activity anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with you, and I don't know what the fix is here. It's definitely not Spielberg's $50 movie ticket bullshit, and I don't think it's. I think there's a movement, especially here in LA, towards like food in the theater, but like not like food at the concessions and you bring it in the theater, like you order from like a waiter.
Yeah.
But like I don't, and like we're gonna get a draft house soon. I'm very excited about that, but like I don't want to deal with paying for my bill at the climax of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to smell someone's fucking gross Dorito Locos tacos at the fucking AMC theater. God damn it!
To Alamo Drafthouse's credit, their food is excellent.
I believe that, but when that catches on at the AMC, the Regal, and the fucking Cinemark, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna be eating goddamn McDonald's.
Yeah.
And be smelling your gross chicken nugget sweet and sour sauce.
Yep. It's yeah.
So that's the state of the physical industry. Kev, are we in a golden age of comic movies or the decline of Western film civilization?
I think we're slowly going to be falling out of the golden age of comic movies.
So we are in it.
I think we're in it.
I agree with you. We are. This is a golden age of comic book movies.
Some very diverse and very interesting films, actually.
Fox and the they is Fox and Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. But for every grumpy old think piece about all they make are superhero movies these days, it's like, no, that's not all they make. It's just that's what's making money because they're doing really interesting things with them. Winter Soldier is like a 70s conspiracy thriller through a Marvel lens. Even though it wasn't good, Batman vs. Superman got 2 of the biggest pop culture icons on screen for the first time in their collective 100-year history.
Right.
There's interesting, ambitious stuff going on in it. I think you're going to hit that plateau when you just can't go any further. You know, it's
I think what is going on here is that everyone always has a very short history, right? Like, it's all about summer blockbusters, but everyone forgets that, like, there was a period from, like, the late 80s to early 90s where there weren't really summer blockbusters in the way that we have them now, right? Independence Day was, like, the first, like, effects-driven genre, you know, real summer blockbuster of, like, that era.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, you know, like, you had, like, you know, Space Jam wasn't a blockbuster. Today it would be a blockbuster. Then it was just a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Now you can you turn things into blockbusters. So a B sci-fi, people don't make B movie science fiction movies like they do in the 50s. They make that's a AAA title now, right? Yep. That's Independence Day 2 instead of you know, The Thing from Another World,
yeah,
or some other bobo nonsense, you know, Astro Zombies. We don't do that anymore. So it's like I always hate all these arguments are predicated on the idea that Hollywood has never changed, and fucking Hollywood's always goddamn changing,
yep.
Right? So it's like we are in a golden age of comic books. Enjoy it while it lasts, and the next generation is probably gonna get sick of this shit, and they're probably gonna react to it. My assumption, if I was to predict the future, is that we're gonna get a lot of small personal movies about how people can't get over themselves and be loved, and you know, fucking bad decisions and emotional train wreck and personal shit.
But those will be the $70 million movies, you're thinking.
Those will be
instead of right now where they're the $10 million movies.
I think so. I think that's how the industry will change, and that sounds crazy today. And in fucking 10 years, we'll see if I'm right or not. Or it'll go some other way. Maybe it'll be about science fiction because we'll be interested in where the world's gonna go and visions of that. Or maybe it'll be about horror because we're all scared all the time. I don't know, but it'll be about something. And I think it won't always be about comic books. I think that because Disney has gotten their fucking mousy hands on it, that will always be a relevant thing because they will make it part of their theme park, and then it'll become part of all of our collective childhoods, all of our children's collective childhoods. It'll become part of the culture, and it'll always be relevant. Same way Mickey Mouse is always relevant, right?
Yep.
Because you have to take your kid to Disneyland, and who's fucking what's Disneyland? It's Mickey's World. You know what I mean? So I don't think the comic book will ever fully go away, but I do think that trends change. You know, like, and if you're a genre fan, that is equivalent. Because if you're a comic book movie fan, like we are, you remember that in the 90s, they were all garbage.
Yep.
And then in the 2000s, they were all hit and miss. And now they're more hit than miss.
Yep.
And eventually there'll probably be less of them. And it just, the sky's always falling in Hollywood, right? When was this magical...
Every single year.
When was this magical time where everyone was like, everything is great? We look back on the 80s and it's like, dude, you had a secondary VHS market, you had the rise of TV, you had theaters, multiplexes exploding. That is like your golden age of money, business shit. But I'm sure if we went back then, people would be like, oh, all the people want to make is romantic comedies. We're trying to get bigger movies made. Or
why isn't anybody making Taxi Driver
right?
anymore?
No one's exactly the director. That's exactly what they would say.
Yep. The
director has no power. It's all about stars now, and the stars take up all the money and have all the direction. So it's like the sky's always falling. So you know what? We'll just live in the. I'm happy to live in a post-apocalyptic sky has fallen world.
Yep. Like I said, the wheel's always turning, and somebody's always on the bottom of the wheel, and they're the ones who are going to be saying the world's ending, and it's not fair, and we're not doing it the right way. Also, until they're on top again, making money hand over fist.
Right, and also if you hate blockbusters and you hate comic movies, go to your indie art house, go to iTunes on a Tuesday or a Friday, and see the indie shit. Indie shit still comes out. Dude, $1 million movies. And, you know, you just saw The Lobster.
I just went and saw The Lobster last night at the Landmark. One of 4 theaters that it's currently playing in the country right now. So
right.
It's go support it if you don't like, if you want to piss and moan about it.
The Lobster, A Bigger Splash. There's movies that are coming out, you know?
Go to the Cine Family and check out something that doesn't have any stars in it, you know? Like, you don't need Tilda Swinton to just go check out. If you think the movie's premise sounds interesting, just go to it, you know? Support it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But, you know, don't just sit there and rail against comic book movies and thinking that's all there is in there. Fucking Green Room is at the Culver City ArcLight right now, you know? Playing next door to Captain America.
It'll be on VOD soon. Go. It might be on VOD now. Go see it.
Just go see it, you know?
Kev, we're wrapping this episode up. What do you want to see more of in the cinemas?
Not to...
Personally.
We just went a screed against how the sky is always falling. I do want to see... I wish there wasn't as big a gap between a movie either needs to be this huge mega budget, big fucking thing, or it has to be a micro budget independent movie. I want to see like the $20 million action movie, you know, or the $30 million drama that has a really good cast. That's why I'm really looking forward to The Nice Guys coming out, because that looks like the kind of movie I want to see more of. Just, you know, you can have the big stars, you can have a lot of talent in it, and you can spend some money, because it's a period piece. Those are always expensive. But it doesn't have to be like $70 million. You know, you can do it for 20, and but you have so much talent together that they make something really special. So I want to see some more of that, and I'm hoping The Nice Guys maybe kicks off some of that, or at least gets people talking about it, you know? So.
I want to see more adult things.
That as well.
Yeah. And so what that means is, on a superficial level, that means more blood and more nudity. Because I feel like television has become more adult than movies have, and I think we got to get people back into the theaters for that. But basically, I want bold choices. I want a bold movie, right? I want to get behind someone and let them tell their story, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Yep. And whatever. I mean, that's very vague, but I just feel like right now, I like comic book movies and I like the big budget movies, and I'm happy with what we get in the cinema. And, you know, Jurassic World's a fun movie, but, you know, I would also like to see, like, what does Colin Trevorrow want to talk about other than this? You know what I mean?
I mean, he does have a movie coming out kind of under wraps called The Book of Henry before he tackles episode 9. So I think that's something that, again, these big budget filmmakers, they can make their big movie that makes all this money, and then that gives them the clout to do whatever they want. So I am excited to see what Colin Trevorrow's got next. I'm excited to see what J.J. Abrams directs next, because as far as I'm concerned, they have a pass to do whatever the hell they want for their next movie, you know? So that's when they can really dig down and figure out what they want to do. You know, Gareth Edwards, he just walked out on Godzilla 2 because he did 2 big blockbusters in a row, and he says he wants to do something smaller next, you know? We know Rogue One's going to make a ton of money, so he'll probably have a chance to do something really personal for him, you know? You know, if that's the path they have to take to do it, then do it, you know? And yeah, if your movie can make $1 billion, you get to do whatever you want.
Well,
I'm concerned. Unless you're Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
But your movie didn't make $1 billion.
Burn. So this is the point of the podcast where we talk about sequel pitches. In this case, is there any seasons you want to do? We talked about doing a car season. I also want to take a look at, for our next director thing, I want to take a look at John Carpenter, because I always want to watch more horror movies.
Yep. You'll discover he's not an exclusively horror director.
Making my initial list. That's correct.
Yep.
Emily's talking about making us do girly movies. I want to do that.
I'm all for that.
Girly season would be choice.
If we're getting criticized for doing too many man movies, I'll strap on a dress.
And I want to do not necessarily not like as simple as like the top AFI 10 movies of all time, but I want to do some classics in that way, or quote unquote important movies, and see how they feel to us, and not in a way of like, let's take this down, but just how do they feel to us? You know, do we identify with A Dog Day Afternoon? Do we identify with, you know, The Godfather? You know,
spoiler alert, both on my Blu-ray shelf.
Interesting. So that's what I want to do. Anything else that you want to tackle?
You know, again, get into more just, I like the random seasons where you just kind of pick movies we're interested in talking about, or just interested in seeing. Like, we're talking about Bone Tomahawk. Neither of us have seen that, so that'd be cool to check out.
Yep.
Yeah, just really, I think the director series are going to be interesting as we kind of spurse them out, because we can pick some. We don't have to pick just the big boys. We can do like Colin Trevorrow. You know, he's got 2 movies. Guys of that level. So, you know, somebody like, I almost said Francis Ford Coppola, but obviously he's huge. Like this guy who just did The Lobster, Yorgos, I forget his last name, but he's got like a slew of films.
Right.
Like, he'd be interesting to look at. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
It could be done. Anything else you want to talk about, Kev? I just recently found out about Spotify. I know I'm like 5 years late to the party, but goddamn, is that thing great?
I think it's great that it's available and people can listen to whatever the hell they want and really discover something new. And as a music fan, I could probably do my own music podcast and do something interesting. And it's great that people have access to everything now. My issue with Spotify is that their whole paying the artist thing seems a little shady. And we're in the wild, wild west with streaming music, and we just don't quite know how to do it yet. So it's fine.
And normally we have a crazy fan theory, so I'm gonna apply that to this. My crazy fan theory is that the record industry and their corruption are just when Spotify comes to them because they own all the masters and says, hey, we want to do this thing. They're like, cool. The artist will get 1%, and we'll get 99%.
Yep.
Cool. And it's like, what's Spotify going to be saying? No?
Exactly. So
that's my assumption.
That's where it's going to come from. Until something can come around that can even challenge Spotify. I know Tidal tried to do it, and it's not doing it. Mm-hmm. But until something comes where it is more an artist-centric platform, if they can even do that, again, the record companies own their masters. So,
right.
Until something like that can really compete with it, it's going to be rough sailing for the artist. So
indeed.
I'm still old school though. I buy my music. I buy CDs. Go to Amoeba. Go to Rhino Records.
I mean, I was buying music on Amazon, but now I'm over it.
For me, I like the idea. Yeah, you can stream whatever you want, but I like if you buy it, it's like it's yours. It's your collection. And Spotify, it's like, well, everything's my collection now, right? And I don't know. It just doesn't have that personal.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is coming from an old music fan.
That's true, but like I just recently got into Kiss Alive and Destroyer.
Damn straight.
And AC/DC and like Black Sabbath. You know what I mean?
But,
and it's like because there's no barrier to entry. It's like, okay, what are albums? So I cross referenced it with the Rolling Stone top 500 kids. You just need it in, right? So they're like, Volume 4 is good. Paranoid is good, blah, blah, blah is good. Then I ask you, and you're like, this and that and the other thing. I'm like, cool. Throw in the list, make a little playlist, listen to it. I'm like, this is good.
Yep.
And I remember I got an AC/DC album when I was a kid, and it's like, it was too much. It's like, it didn't, having the disc and just limited those songs, it's like, it's not the breadth of their work. It just didn't work. You know what I mean? I guess I gotta get like a best of, but I don't know. I just wanted to just listen to like 3 albums that are back to back without paying $40,
If we get started talking about albums, we'll be here all day.
We will.
So you know.
So that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening to our conversation for the last year, and this one indeed. Come back and join us next episode. We'll be talking about a specific movie, unnamed as of now. I want to say thanks to Kev for being awesome. Putting up with my general neuroses, my terrible spelling and written grammatical style, which is in a bad state. This has been consistent for 29 3/4 years. My over-seriousness and juxtaposed with my humor, which is not always well-timed. Kev, thank you.
And I want to thank you for getting this all set up and giving us a creative outlet that we can really apply ourselves to. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we both are capable of doing and enjoy doing, and I will do it for as long as I enjoy doing it.
Indeed. And let's savor this until we turn this off and record our episode on Minority Report and get mad at each other. I want to thank friend of the show, Jeff, for making our music. Jeff's music's great.
Yes.
Love that music. Use that music every episode. Love it. Want to say thank you to M, who I love, and who puts up with 52 weeks of me watching movies that she didn't want to watch. So
she's gone through the ringer with some of those.
She's supported this endeavor emotionally and physically. Yeah. So
that Gremlins episode had some good quotes.
Yeah. The Gremlins episode, I think, tested her spiritually as well. So, also, there's a user on SoundCloud named Jake Allen who has listened to every one of our episodes, from what I can tell.
Jake Allen was one of my former coworkers.
Oh,
he's a good kid, and I like him, and he's a loyal listener, and I've shouted him out before. I'm going to shout him out again. Thanks for listening, Jake.
Jenny and Corey, thanks to you guys too. Anyone who's listened to this podcast, I want to thank. Even if you didn't like it, even if you never listen to it again, even if you're not listening to my voice right now, anyone who took the time to listen to us, it's all we could ever ask of you, right? So it's like, that's everything else is just gravy, you know?
We appreciate anybody we get. Mm-hmm. Anybody who comes on as a guest, anybody who listens, it's, you're taking time out of your day to hear us fight about ET, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. We enjoy that.
Indeed. Exactly. This episode written by me, Mr. Jibber Jabber, music by Jeff Russell. Kev is your host. Kev, I am your host, Mr. Jibber Jabber. See you next time, 50 weeks from now, episode, to my math, 102?
Yeah.
No, So 48 weeks from now, to my math, episode 100.
Yes.
Let's do Turbo Cop, and then 4 weeks later, we'll see if we learned anything.
We'll find out.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.